Hi everybody, I'm David Barry, the host of AMZ Dojo, and in this video I'll talk with Coran Woodmass, the managing partner at the FBABroker.com, about selling Amazon FBA businesses. Watch this video to learn why most FBA businesses don't sell when they're brought to market, the 5 key things that buyers of FBA businesses are looking for, and how to build your business if you want to achieve a dream exit in the future. Hello, Coran.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it. Yeah, really excited to help you or to help us see what you have to say today. I think you've got a lot of knowledge in this area. So yeah, super excited to dive in.
Great.
I see it's quite late there as well. So I appreciate you joining us at this time. All right, so
No, that's okay. It's only 8. It's fine.
good. Well, look, I think we'll launch straight into it. So I've got about 6 or 7 questions here that I want to dive into. But let's start with kind of a relatively simple one for someone who, let's say, is relatively new to this area. So let's imagine you're an FBA seller and you're interested in selling your business. How, generally speaking, is an FBA business valued?
Sure. This has changed quite significantly. So we started the FBA broker 2 years ago, and in that 2 years, we've seen a massive change in the industry. We also put out a monthly and weekly report of sales in this marketplace. So looking at the whole market as a whole instead of worldwide, instead of just the deals we're doing. And we're seeing that there is a disparity between businesses now, whereas in the beginning, just the size of the business almost was the thing that made a business worth more or worth less. And what we're seeing now is there's a lot more nuance as the buyers are getting more and more sophisticated. They're seeing more and more deals. So right now we're tracking 217 listings worldwide, and that gives buyers a lot of choice. So basically, the way a business is valued is we take the trailing 12 months net profit and we use a multiple on that trailing 12 months net profit to come up with a valuation for what your business is worth. And something that not many brokers or marketplaces will tell you is that you never really know what your business is truly worth until you have a buyer put in an offer, sign the document, and send money into escrow. That's the only time you really know what your business is worth.
Of course, yeah. That's interesting though. So really as a seller then, you've got to be tracking your most recent 12 months performance, because that's going to be one of the key variables that the valuation is based on. And then the other one is the multiple, obviously. So you'll take the trailing 12 months profit and then you'll achieve a multiple of that based on the quality of your business, right? Which is
correct.
You know, that's a topic we could probably dive into for an hour or more, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, I've boiled it down to 5 things, but yeah, we can talk about that now or later. That's fine.
Why not? Let's get into it. Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Okay, cool. So what we're seeing as the biggest 5 things you must have, and this is not so much for just a valuation, so not just to figure out a multiple, but also to figure out if your business is sellable. The sell-through rate in the past 12 months has actually been in massive decline. And the majority of the reason for that is there's just a lot of businesses on the marketplace right now. So when buyers have choice, it makes it harder for your business to stand out. I often refer to this as similar to when you're starting out on Amazon looking for products to sell. The best way to do this now, again, in the beginning it was a lot easier. You could just find something selling and go source that product. But now you really need to take into consideration what could make this product better, what are the buyers actually looking for. And that's what we try and focus on here at the FBA Broker, is what buyers are actually looking for, what's actually selling in the marketplace, which is different to just what something is worth. And we've distilled this down into 5 things. So the first one is, in no particular order, this one is probably the most important, but these are all equally important. So the first one is brand awareness or brand synergy. So oftentimes we'll see two identical businesses doing the same amount of revenue, same amount of profit, same amount of products. And the one business will have a tight brand focus. So they're solving a problem for one particular target market. They have one demographic. So say they're selling to mothers, they're selling to sports enthusiasts, they're selling to cooking enthusiasts, and they have a tight product range around that one niche. So their brand is strong, their product lineup is all related to that person. Essentially, that person could go and buy those other products. So that makes the business, the brand, more attractive than if you have a smattering of 10, 20 products in completely unrelated categories. Somewhere along the way, someone said it was a good idea to just, by naming something that was a brand. Well, unfortunately, that's not a brand, and buyers are definitely differentiating between those two things. And if you're a smaller business, so if your list price or your multiple is puts your business under $500,000, that's the bulk of the market right now. And a mismatched brand or a mismatched business with a lot of mini brands just isn't selling right now. In that 100 to 500,000 range, the sell-through rate in 2018, the first half of 2018, is only 25%. So if you list your business, the chance of you selling are actually really low right now.
That's going to
so brand awareness is, oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, it is.
It's always better to know these things. And that's actually the first time I've heard that point about brand awareness and focus. So really, really valuable takeaway there.
Yeah, it's super important. And I think we may even get to a point in the next 6 to 12 months, it may take a little bit less, a little bit more, before an unrelated product business, unless there's something really interesting about it, will just be unsellable, regardless of size. That's my prediction in the next 6 to 12 months.
Wow, you heard it here first, guys.
Yeah, so the second thing we look for is a healthy net margin. So we mentioned before your net profit, your annual net profit. Once you figure out what that number is, you divide that by your revenue, and that percentage, we'll come up with a percentage there, that percentage will be your net margin. And a lot of times, and people I talk to, they think they have a really healthy net margin. When we get the numbers in, it's actually around 15 to 20%. Now, that may sound okay on the surface, but what we're actually seeing is the average net margin of sold businesses, so to actually sell through, have a good chance of selling through, it's almost 30%. So that's another big factor to even make a business sellable and more attractive to a buyer.
And just to clarify, that's net profit before tax as well, right? Or is it? Correct.
Yes. Yeah. It's always before taxes and even owner's salary and things like that. We can do add backs to that bottom line to bring your annual net profit up a little bit. We actually create a trailing 12 months seller discretionary earnings is what we call it, that we put there for you. So in your P&L, we'll actually legitimately add back items that aren't business critical, and we put them at the bottom of the P&L. So as we're talking to buyers, we disclose all of the expenses. So if you go traveling a lot for your own personal masterminds and things, I've seen clients with massive mastermind bills, maybe $80,000, $100,000 a year. Interestingly, those guys are also doing 8 figures plus in revenue typically, so it pays off. But these guys are spending a lot on educating themselves, which is a great idea. But all of that can be added back because the new buyer coming in doesn't necessarily need to do that to run your business. Yeah. So there's other things as well you can add back. So that creates your net margin. Perfect. And the next thing that we're really looking for, buyers are really looking for right now, is both product diversification and product uniqueness. Now, diversification, what I mean by that is when you look at as a percentage of your revenue, so you're doing it $10 million a year, and you look at your product lineup, break it down, revenue per SKU, per item. If one product is more than, say, 20, 30% of your revenue, that's not good diversification. You really want that as diversified as possible. And actually, as your business gets larger, the more important that is. So if you think about it, if you're looking at this as an investor, looking at all the options out there, you have one business that's doing $1 million in revenue, but it's spread out across, say, 10, 15 products fairly evenly, or one product, one other brand that's selling one product that makes $1 million, and maybe have some accessory products that may or may not be unrelated, but that one product is doing all the heavy lifting, it's doing 80, 90% of the revenue. Which one is more risky? So if you actually flip this around and think about it as an investor looking at buying your business, a lot of this stuff makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So
the next thing, sorry, go ahead.
Threshold then is you don't want any one product to be roughly 20 or 30% more, which
correct.
I imagine a lot of sellers fall into that category.
Absolutely. And that's why so many businesses just aren't selling through right now. That's one of the biggest reasons, is product diversification. It's insane. To go along with product diversification is also uniqueness. So buyers are starting to get more interested in more unique proprietary products. So they don't need to be patented necessarily, although if you can, that goes a long way. If you can create something that's better than the competition and have something, maybe it's a mold, maybe it's design. A lot of people use extra products in the packaging. That doesn't last very long. You want something a little bit more defensible. So if you have a unique mold and it's a little bit better than the competition, and you do some other things to make sure this product is the best it can absolutely be, that will make it more interesting than if a buyer can go look on Alibaba and find 10 suppliers for the exact thing you're selling. That means that the competition will also find it harder to find that X factor that you've found in your product. Yeah. And next, so that's three things there. The fourth is the actual size of the business will dictate the multiple right now. So like I was saying before, under $500,000 in list price right now, that's about 60% of the market. We've been tracking the multiples for 2 years now, and we're seeing a steady decline in multiples at that lower end of the market. And it really is a buyer's market. There's too much inventory. There's more buyers, but they're more picky and they have more choice. So the bigger the business gets, the better potentially your multiple could be, everything else being equal. So if all these other 4 points are in play, the bigger your business will be, the higher the multiple will be. So right now you really want serious buyers are really looking for $1 million in revenue plus. And often a lot more. So that's really where you really want to be getting to before you start looking to sell your business. And maybe if you're at that 1 million in revenue, you're really exit planning at that stage. You're not even quite getting ready to sell. Because oftentimes, when you're in growth mode, I talk about the 3 to 4 year mark with a lot of clients I'm talking to. So typically, if you launch from scratch, selling just via Amazon, you take the first 6 to 12 months to even figure out what's selling, what you can sell, not what's selling in a software that you look up, what you can actually sell and do well at. So you can rank, you can make good margin, you can sell through, you find the product that's good, the supply is good, you don't have issues with the product. Once you figure out that one category that you can really sell well in, and that one demographic that you're targeting, then go out and find more products, 5, 10 products around that core product. So if they're accessory products, that's even better. If they're consumable, so maybe if there's one product and it needs replacement parts, or there's consumable portions to that product, that's a really good product niche to get into, because there's constant sales that the customers will come back again and again. You can use subscribe and save. Maybe you can even get them subscribed on your own website, which is a good thing. You control that income now.
Yeah.
So that's what you typically That's what you typically do in the second and maybe even the third year, is you're just expanding. You'll focus on growth. So your net margin won't be and cannot be great while you're expanding the business, because you're pouring so much money back into new product development, testing, marketing, launching new products. So it's not really typically until the third or fourth year that you can even contemplate going to sell, because you'll need to build the business to a point where it's growing, but then you can optimize for net profit while still growing the business. And that actually leads into the fifth point that you need if you're going to sell your business, and will also make the business worth more, is year-over-year growth trends. So oftentimes I get people ask me, can I just build a brand from scratch, sell it in 6 months? I mean, potentially, it's actually a really tough thing to do, to get something to work and sell it within 6 months. Your offers will be really low, if any at all, and you're really not capturing the time and effort and upside potential yourself that you could actually get as a return from starting a product brand from scratch. So if you take a longer view, 3, 4, 5 years as a view, keep growing year over year, invest back into your business, don't take out so much cash along the way. If you're wanting a good exit, this is the way to really get to that mid 7, 8 figure kind of exit range, is to really treat it like a business, invest heavily in the business, look for growth, and then optimize for net margin that last year or two before going to sell.
Awesome. Well, I think there's a lot of nuggets there. And actually, just to follow up on that last point about investment, I mean, let's imagine there's probably a lot of sellers out there who don't have, a ton of capital to invest in their business right now. Are you seeing people in the market who are interested in investing, in partnering with, let's say, talented sellers out there who don't have a ton of funds available? Is there a market for that too?
Yes, there is. But for the most part, those investors are looking for much larger businesses. So they're looking for a multi-million-dollar revenue business, because really in the marketplace, there's a lot of sellers. So a lot of people can say, hey, I can sell on Amazon. But if you can actually build something from scratch and get to $1, $2, $5, $10 million in revenue, that's something that people really back. And it's usually in that 6 to 7 figure range that you will need more capital. So what I would actually recommend, and you didn't ask this, but I'd like to add this in as a concept. There's a couple of ways to think about an Amazon-based business or product brand. In any case, you can think of this as a cash flow play. So if you need to replace your income and you're wanting to sell products to replace your income, that's one thing, right? If you're wanting to grow the business as big as you can, that takes more money. So typically the guys that I see doing really well in this space have another business, they have other income, maybe they have a high executive paid salary, and they have to hire people to run the business because they're working 68 hours a week already, right? These are the guys that do really well at this. They not only reinvest the money that they're making, but they also have more capital to put in themselves. That way they don't give up equity, and they can scale. Once they figure out what works, they can scale that up. And some of these guys are even actually looking for acquisition opportunities to grow even faster. So it's kind of I think as a concept, it makes sense, but if you need income, go for the income play. If you want to grow the business, focus on growing the business. If you want to sell the business, ideally you need to be in growth phase before you go to sell the business, and you need a longer time frame. So often I get the sense when I'm talking to a lot of sellers that are maybe a smaller business, are doing $500,000 in revenue, let's say they've been at it a couple of years, it feels to me, and I talk to hundreds of sellers, it seems to me even that they're just trying to pull the ripcord and get out because they're afraid. So, and that's part of all of this too. Oftentimes a seller will sell due to fear of things going away, which, you go through a couple of updates with Amazon. There was a review update recently that, affected some of even our clients. And, that that leaves an impression on you. There's no real getting away from that. So that's a real thing. There is real risk in this. But if you look at the cash on cash return just from your inventory, you have an incredible investment vehicle that you're actually building right now. A lot of these product brands are actually cash generating machines, which is why investors are looking to buy them. So there's a double-edged sword there. Yeah,
I think that's a great point. I mean, it's just like money in the bank, right? If you leave it there, it compounds over time. And if you start taking it out, the compound interest would be much smaller. So yeah, I've never really heard it put like that, but I think it's really good. So people need to either think about, am I prioritizing income and salary, or am I looking to keep as much cash in this business and really go aggressively towards growth? And my guess is a lot of people are in between those two phases. And when you're in between, you're probably not going towards that growth phase like you were talking to, and really hitting the, what did you say, around the 7-figure mark, million or more mark,
yeah,
even start to exit plan. So
yes. Yeah, ideally. And I think that will become more and more important in the future. So you just need to really be honest with yourself. I saw a speaker once say, Peter Shankman is his name. I was at a conference, he was speaking. He said this one line that always stuck with me. He said that if he ever gets asked to speak in Las Vegas, he has to be in the early afternoon slot, otherwise he won't do it. And the reason for this is he goes in, he speaks, and then he leaves. Before he knows himself. So he knows if he goes and stays in Vegas, he's going to spend too much, he's going to drink too much, party too much, then his week's screwed, and he spent too much money. So he actually said after this, lie to everyone else, don't lie to yourself. Yeah. So be very clear with why you are doing this business. And you know what? Some people that say, I don't have money to invest in something, are actually lying as well, because they're not ready to invest their own money in this. Yeah. So why should someone else invest money in this? And that's okay. If you don't want to invest more money in this, go for the income play. But the chances of you doing an income play and having something sellable, they're beyond two opposing goals. And with the way the market's turning right now, just take the income. Don't even think about selling.
Yeah. Well, as a broker yourself, that's a really honest answer. And I think a lot of people will appreciate that, because, when we were coming into this session today, I was thinking it would be mostly positive, but actually it's probably been more cautious. It's been telling people, look, this is the reality of the market right now, and here's what you got to do. So I'm just having the questions I prepared. We've actually gone through a lot of them. There was one point you mentioned there, and I just wanted to touch on that briefly, right? Because I have met sellers like this who they've built up a business over the last few years. They've worked really, really hard. And when you talk to them, it's very apparent that they're looking to pull the plug and get out, right? So the exit's motivated by fear. Now, that's not going to get you the best result, obviously, because a lot of the buyers in this market are sophisticated investors. They're seasoned professionals. To someone who's watching this, who's in that mindset, like what would you say to them? Like, how do you...
Sure. So I think that used to be an option, to say, look, I'm not sure if this business is sustainable. Businesses are trading for 2 to 3 times cash flow, annual cash flow. Let's get out. Let's sell this and move on to something else. I think the market has changed for the better, because you can actually take some of those profits, if and only if you're willing to reinvest in your business. You can take some of those profits and make your business more defensible, make the products better, really get tight on your demographic, essentially create a better business. Yeah. If you're looking to sell down the track. And what you may find is, as you build the business, I've had conversations. I've got a client right now that I actually said to him, look, please don't sell your business, it's too soon. And the thing was, with the type of business he built, and the multiple that we could potentially get for him, which we're aiming much higher than this, but a conservative estimate was enough for him to say, actually, this is worth selling. And I respect that. It's his business. He built it, right? But me being the value guy, I'm looking at the potential upside and just saying, look, we can promote how big this could get, but it's not there yet, right? So I think that's the thing to look at is, again, get real with yourself and say, well, if I'm scared and wanting to sell this because I'm scared, chances of someone buying this right now are pretty slim. There are some caveats to that, which I can go through, that may make something sellable. And a lot of that could be in your own head as well. So I'm a really big fan. I mean, I'm in sales. I'm pretty much a sales guy. That's what I've been doing for a long time. And one of the biggest success points for me is always working on my head and working on motivation, figuring out, getting positive messages in my brain. And that will actually could potentially help. So it's not all bad news though. So, why I said the million revenue plus is really when you want to start looking to sell a business, is that's where you start to attract the more professional investor. And the reason you want to deal with a professional investor instead of a private investor, so say the 100 to 500,000 list price range, so you're probably doing anywhere from half a million, you're doing say 50,000 to 200,000 in net profit, annual net profit. This is the range you're at. You could be doing about up to $1 million in revenue at this point. So if you were to go to try sell this business, chances are very high that a private investor is going to buy your business. The problem with private investors is they're always using their own cash. Mm-hmm. Chances are very high that they only have one bullet. So if they're looking at a $200,000-$300,000 listing, that's all they have. Mm-hmm. So they're petrified of putting this money into one deal. So the higher you get to that $500,000 or even $1 million range, the less investors you'll have, less private investors that will be willing to put that much into one deal. And it's not big enough to attract the bigger guys that have raised capital to acquire multiple brands. Mm-hmm. And once you reach that above that $1 million, $2 million revenue range, you start getting big enough to attract these other guys. The reason you want to deal with them is, I had a call, this deal we're working on right now, this is exclusively for these guys. It'll be about a $2 million-ish deal. It's exclusively marketed and we've invited these investors to come pitch for this business. And some of these guys, just a quick example of 3 of them. One has raised mid 8 figures to acquire brands. They have a team of 20 people to run operations on a business like this. They've already bought 4 or 5. They're going to buy as many as they can. Yeah. So the thing that you're thinking, if you're at that range and you're, say, doing 2 million in revenue, right? Your business is a brand, it's tight focused, good margins, but you're either tapped out or you're scared at that point with that type of business. There's an investor, these groups that will come and buy that and explode. They will just double down. They'll bring in more capital. They have more people, more manpower. So in that case, if you are thinking, well, I've taken this as far as I can go, I'm not sure if I want to put more money back in at this point because it's becoming too much of my net worth, that could be a good time to sell. And that's quite common. And when you're selling to a more professional setup investor, they have the infrastructure for this. Another group that we're working with on the buy side that are actively looking for deals right now have thousands of sales channels offline. Online guys kind of forget that there's this whole commerce world outside of the internet. Worldwide, I think worldwide last year, only about 20% of retail sales were done online. So that's 80% of sales of products are done outside in the real world. And these guys have thousands of channels worldwide. They're household brands worldwide. So they're looking for products that have proven that they sell well. So they've found a problem, they've solved the problem, they have that demographic that they're dealing with, and those products could be taken into retail.
Yeah.
And they have massive budgets for this. So those type of buyers, they're actually looking for, a couple of products that do really well, but are proprietary or patented in some ways. So that's what they're looking for. So there's hundreds of buyers. Right now we have on our registered buyer list alone over $830 million in capital ready to acquire these businesses. The thing is, most of them are looking for $5-10 million plus businesses. So there's a lot of money at the top end and very small amounts of money at the low end of town. So the bigger you get, the chances of you selling are much higher, and the multiples actually increase because it's just harder to get a business to say 10 million, 20 million in revenue.
Of course. Well, look, this has been an amazing session, a lot of great insight, and I think it was really honest too, as well, as I mentioned earlier. So I really appreciate it, Coran. Is there any final things? I mean, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about how you can specifically help people in terms of exit planning and maybe then when they're ready to sell?
Sure. So the best way to stay in touch with us, and the best way I can help you before we even speak, if you're a founder of a product brand, is to go to FBAbusinesspriceguide.com and sign up for our monthly report. So each month we put out a report of market-wide sales. We track everything, and we started this 2 years ago, and about a year and a half ago, there were so many deals happening that we started doing this weekly. So if you go to that page, you sign up, name an email, just underneath, check the box for MarketWatch Monday emails, and you'll actually get that email from us every Monday. And what we put in there is what sold last week, and then what's new to the market, so new listings. And at the end of that email, we actually link to all the new listings. So even if you're a seller, you're not looking to buy, you can read this email and go click through and see what else is out there. And you'll see over time, as we're reporting on it, you'll be able to see it too, what's selling, what's not, and what's happening in the marketplace. So as you're building your brand for an exit, you'll know roughly where the value is sitting, what's selling well, before you even go to start exit planning. And then of course, with exit planning, we have a number of options there on the exit planning side. And we also have an onboarding service to actually get your business ready to sell. So depending on where you are in that life cycle, there's ways for us to help you. At the bottom of, just before those links, there's a couple of links in each Monday email for you to reach out. You can also just reply to any of those emails, and our team will help you out with selling a business. And then if you have any specific questions about selling a business, or what your business could be worth, just email us directly at sales@thefbabroker.com.
Perfect. Of course, and I'll make sure to put all those links in the description as well, so people have easy access to them. And look, thanks again. Great session. Really appreciate it. And I see it's dark there now, so I better let you go. Have a great evening.
Great. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Bye-bye.